Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Kayla Clark and today I'm going to be talking to you about topical steroid withdrawal. So imagine skin like this for years. This is topical steroid withdrawal, which is a condition caused by overuse of synthetic steroid medication. It can last for years, it's really debilitating, and it is entirely preventable. So this presentation is for anyone going through TSW or for anybody who wants to know more. I'll be going through the basic physiology behind what's going on, the timeline, what to expect, and basic support tips. Although with TSW, time is the ultimate healer, there is so much that we can do in the meantime to support our body through the process and shorten its trajectory. By focusing on the things that keep us in alignment, we become more in tune with our bodies, which allows our physiology the opportunity to sync with our environments and allows us to really get into alignment with how we can grow through this process as a person. I've been through it too. I remember standing in front of the mirror clawing at my face, just waiting for the itch to go away so I could try to sleep a little bit. I remember feeling so isolated, hopeless, and confused, having no idea what was happening to my body, having no answers from anybody. And I want your experience to be different, which is why I created this container. I want to share what I learned through my process so you can face the rebalancing process and take an empowered approach and get through this. My topical steroid withdrawal journey lasted about 8 months in total. It started when I was in the middle of my medical degree, actually, and this was a blessing because it allowed me the opportunity to work with not only naturopathic doctors, but also homeopathic doctors, traditional Chinese medicine doctors, medical doctors, functional medicine doctors, so many different areas and specialties, and I learned so much. I experimented a lot, and I really want to be able to pass what I learned on to this container. So a bit about me quickly. Like I said, my name is Dr. Kayla Clark. I am from Vancouver, British Columbia, the Pacific Northwest. I love to be outside. I love to be near the ocean, in the forest, in the mountains, and I'm so grateful for where I get to call home. A sense of community outdoors and adventure is really important to me. And like I said, I love to connect with the people around me. All right, let's get into it. So eczema and topical steroid withdrawal are multifaceted imbalances that require an integrative and intentional approach. What does that mean? Everybody is going to be completely different. Everybody's skin story is unique, and everybody is going to require something different. So working with someone and working with yourself and really being in tune with your own body and what you need will be key on rebalancing your own skin and creating vitality in your own health. What are topical steroids? They are the single most prescribed pharmaceutical for any skin condition of any kind. So eczema, bug bites, rashes, any sort of thing, you will probably be given either an over-the-counter topical steroid or a prescriptive topical steroid. So what they actually are is a synthetic form of our body's natural anti-inflammatory compound. When you put it directly on the skin, it is essentially constricting the blood vessel flow to that area of the skin. So what this means is there's not as many inflammatory markers that are going to be able to get there. So if there's some sort of inflammation or rash or anything, things that cause the inflammation won't be able to get to the blood, won't be able to get to the skin, and therefore it won't be able to deliver any inflammatory markers. Side effects of this are sort of along the same thread, so local increase in rates of infection, delayed wound healing, loss of skin elasticity, and this is the same reasoning because the body isn't able to get things through the blood and to the skin, so the whole highway is shut down essentially. The bad stuff can't get through, but the good stuff can't get through either. Locally, that's the sort of thing it can cause. Systemic side effects are more rare, but can happen if you're using large amounts over the skin at a long time. A quick note on non-steroid topicals, so Protopic and Elidel. Even though these things are not shutting down the immune system in the same way steroids are, they are what's called topical calcineurin inhibitors, which is a very specific inflammatory molecule. They do have correlated to show this with an increased risk of cancer, so just be aware of that if you choose to use them. Topical steroid withdrawal describes a situation where the skin has lost its own ability to regulate inflammation. Over time, more and more creams are needed to calm the skin, and if they're stopped, things often get worse quick. Eventually, the steroids stop working altogether, leading to a massive inflammatory rebound reaction. So this is the situation we're describing here. The skin, over time, just can't tolerate the topical steroids anymore. They're not working anymore. The immune system has become too dysregulated and loses equilibrium, and we go into a massive inflammatory state. What is actually going on when this happens? So a few things are at play here. One of them being a physical addiction. So we've been using a steroid for so long that our body has lost the ability to regulate itself on its own, essentially. So this also feeds in here to vascular rebound and unchecked inflammation. When we've been putting steroids on our skin for so long, like I said, the body forgets how to function on its own. And when they're removed, the body is very confused. It doesn't know how to produce its own response, and so we're left with a rebound effect. We've been suppressed for so long, and so the rebound is sort of the opposite. Instead of the blood vessels being really constricted with things hard to flow through, instead of the highway being closed, the highway opens up all of a sudden to 10 lanes wide, and everything gets through, inflammatory markers included. So inflammatory markers, when they gather together like this, like they do in the skin with topical steroid withdrawal, they can cause a lot of damage on that highway. They can cause things to leak out. They go into different lanes. They go off the meridians completely. And so things start to leak. Things leak out of the blood vessels. This is why you might notice things like swelling or ooze. Because all the blood is rushing to the surface of the area, you'll get things like heat, vasodilation, and redness. Another thing that is going on with topical steroid withdrawal is an overburdening of the detox pathways. So I just want to touch on this a little bit. I'm not saying that your body is actually actively overburdened with steroids, which it actually might be, but the case here is what I'm saying is it is just another thing that feeds into the process. So the bucket is overflowing now and things aren't functioning properly. The body's not able to recalibrate as fast as it could be. So balancing and keeping all of these things in mind will be key in moving forward to support your body through TSW. What's the difference between eczema and topical steroid withdrawal? So they do look very similar and they can be hard to differentiate. This is where it's really great if you can work with someone who's seen them or who knows the difference, or if you yourself know the difference. So eczema tends to show up in kids. It's more sort of stable. It tends to show up in the same areas, not spread too far from it. Stems from poor gut health, food triggers, immune system imbalances, high toxic load, and you can usually tell what's triggering it. Topical steroid withdrawal can exist actually at the same time as eczema. It's often more severe. I have people say it just feels very different. It feels different in character. It cycles different. It has very well demarcated borders. It starts going places it never has been before. You get more full body symptoms rather than only skin symptoms. And it has very clear cycling patterns. So what do you do if you think you might have topical steroid withdrawal? What can you expect? So in the beginning, right off the bat, the first thing that usually happens is the topical steroids will either stop working or the person will just discontinue them, and this is when the body goes into a massive inflammatory reaction. In the very beginning, it might be quite alarming. You might start to develop eczema in places you never have before. It might get worse, like I said. It might start to change in character, and you'll likely feel very, very hot, very, very red, and quite itchy. So for me, it started on my arms. It started spreading down my arms in very symmetrical circular patterns. Eventually, they grew into each other, and then went to a red arm or the red sleeve, grew all over my torso. It started creeping up my neck, my face, and slowly, eventually, my whole body was just covered like this. So the initial flare usually can start right away and can go anywhere from 2 to 6 months. This is usually the worst of it. Not necessarily, but usually. And so again, this can be quite alarming, and so staying calm and understanding the situation will be really key here. Here are my top tips for dealing with that initial flare. So definitely do's, tune into your body. Notice what it feels like when it's itchy, when it's hot, when it's red, and also notice where your mind goes when it feels like this. Just want to clarify, when I say this, I don't mean tune into like triggers, what you're eating, dust, what your stress levels are. These likely aren't even going to be recognizable at this point, so just start to tune into the process of what's actually going on in the moment. Cutting out dyes, chemicals, synthetics, colors, things like that can be really key. I think that's something that we should all do, and something that I can say is a blanket statement right off the bat. Just get rid of anything that can either irritate your skin or overburden your detox pathways or trigger your immune system. Gather your supplies and alert your team. So not to be afraid with TSW, but the more people you have on your team, the better. So if you have a community of support, a family, a friend, a partner, somebody, let them know that you might need some extra support. Let them know that you might need some extra love. Get some healthy food. Research what you need to do. Gather yourself some clean clothes, some gloves, some cotton cloths, some cool compresses. The least things the more you can do right now to make yourself comfortable, the better. Physiologically and medical wise, I know right off the bat we're gonna want to do, of course, all the things that we can do to sort of get ourselves through this process faster. But right now, your body just needs your support. Focus on eating nourishing foods, resting, and connecting with yourself. Physically, medically, mast cell stabilization and histamine control is sort of where I focus in this stage. So nothing beyond that. Right now, we want to get the inflammation down. And that basically looks like just avoiding certain histamine triggers, essentially fermented foods and leftover foods are the biggest foods that are, and then also just drinking water, going outside, getting some sunshine, and resting. Those are the best things that you can do right now for your body. Don't panic. I know that it's a daunting process, but like I said, take some deep breaths, root yourself into this process, gather your team, and know that you're stronger than this thing. You will get through it. Don't change your diet drastically. Don't go on an elimination diet. I know this might be tempting and sort of the natural thing to do next, but instead focus on eating nourishing foods that are really going to help your body get the nutrients it needs to balance and decrease this inflammation. I think that is way more key right now than focusing on cutting foods out. Don't start any supplements unless you have a healthcare practitioner that you trust that is doing this intentionally. Supplements can be a great tool. They can also be a great detriment during this stage, so make sure you know what you're doing. Don't start a detox. Again, this might be tempting. It might seem like a natural thing to do, but your body is so overwhelmed right now that it doesn't need to focus on liberating or clearing a bunch of toxins. Detoxing, elimination diets, supplements are all things that we will get to eventually, and working with a coach or guide and doing this intentionally can be the best way to approach it. So after that initial flare, which can last anywhere from 1 to 6 months in most people, most people will start moving into sort of the meat of topical steroid withdrawal, when the skin will start going into cycles. So I'm going to talk about a few of the cycles and symptoms and stages that you might see in topical steroid withdrawal and how to sort of approach and manage them. So people will start to notice these cycles. They might show up about a month at a time. They might start being about 2 months at a time. You might notice all of these sort of skin cycles at once. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. but just note what's going on and how they show up in your body. And again, I'll say pay attention to how what your body needs and what makes your body feel good when they're in different stages. Everything might change very quickly, and you might need to adapt your skincare routine very quickly as well. So the first phase or stage in TSW that people will note is the bright flushing, the hot, the red sleeves. This is sort of where heat is the name of the game. So it might look like a sunburn. It's very well defined, and it just feels really hot and red here. So when your skin's like this, I tend to avoid heavy oils like coconut oil and Vaseline. It can trap heat in and make things feel worse. Cool wraps, herbal compresses might be good, or perhaps nothing at all. Oozing and crusting is another stage of skin that you might note. So this is one that I will caution with, because a ooze and crust, while sometimes can be fairly normal in topical steroid withdrawal, it can also look very much like an impetigo staph infection. So I always recommend, if you do have any oozing or crusting, to get it swabbed, to get it checked out with a medical professional, especially if it's on your face. You don't want to mess around with any sort of bacterial overgrowth on your face or on your body in general. That being said, something that looks like this does happen often in TSW, and it happens because your skin is, again, dealing with that leaky blood vessel. So fluid is leaking out of the blood and into the tissue and into the skin and out of the skin. So when your skin is like this, if it's safe to do so, I like doing some herbal compresses, some cooling wraps, some medicated oils, some manuka honey might feel good here, or again, nothing at all might feel best. So listen to your body as always. Flaking and shedding is another major stage that you might notice in TSW. A lot of people will have massive amounts of flaking and shedding on the daily, sometimes worse than others, but it's usually quite a common thing that happens. The hardest thing about this stage is to not pick, to resist the temptation to pick and scratch at the flakes, especially anywhere. It feels very satisfying, and it is very hard not to do, but it is so important not to do, because it's a quick way to introduce infection onto the face. And often when the skin is flaking like this, the skin underneath isn't healed. It's quite raw. And so picking off skin before it's ready to be picked off is just, again, exposing skin that's an open wound, essentially. So don't pick. This might be a good time to use heavy oils like Vaseline or coconut oil to help seal in that barrier and provide an extra layer of protection there. Elephant skin is often the last lingering thing that will hang out after more of the inflammatory stages of TSW have gone by. And so this is sort of the thing people will say, oh, is this ever going to go away? Yes, I think it will always go away. The skin here literally looks like elephant skin. It's very dry, it's very swollen, it seems to have no collagen, no moisture. At this stage, see what your skin can tolerate here. It might like more moisture, it might like more dry. I like to use some things like collagen, hyaluronic acid, things that can help support those skin cells actually regenerate, because now the inflammation is a little bit down. Hopefully we've done the work to rebalance our bodies, to get our detox pathways going, and now we can really focus on helping the body actually lay down those building blocks of skin. TSW and topical steroid withdrawal is not systemic, or it does not only stick to the skin, it can go systemically as well. So you might notice other symptoms that are more than just the skin. So things like nerve pain, sometimes described as sparklers or zingers down the hands and the feet. Enlarged lymph nodes in the neck or the armpits can be quite common. Edema and swelling, eye dryness and irritation. Change in color, so hyper or hypopigmentation of your skin. Hair loss can be a really devastating but very real consequence in TSW. Insomnia is one that almost everybody deals with, whether it be due to the itch, to the anxiety, to the discomfort, to the alteration in body temperature, to all of the above. Sleep is really hard to come by and so important. Changes in appetite, changes in energy, hypersensitivity, thermoregulation, so fever and chills and just having really trouble regulating body temperature. And then, of course, mental health and emotional wellness is such a hugely impacted area that goes on with TSW that isn't talked about, I think, as much as it needs to be. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself and ask for support if you need it, not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally. Quickly touching on guidelines again. So TSW is a very different process for everyone. Although the symptoms seem to cluster around a similar sort of pattern, they could be very different, and everybody's going to be unique. So yours might be very different than mine. My trajectory, my timeline, my symptoms, my feelings might be very different than yours. Healing can be non-linear, so unfortunately it's not like things are really bad at the beginning and then slowly we get better from then. Just like any chronic illness, things can wax and wane with life. Things get better and things get worse. And so having faith and sticking through it and really working hard and doing what you need to do is really paramount and really difficult and really honorable in a process like this. Again, noting that TSW is severe, it can affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, really at any facet of your life. And I'll say this again is listening to your body, really being able to identify what is working for you individually and uniquely, and not what is working for everybody else. Why is this happening to me, and why is this happening now? TSW is such a newly sort of discovered condition. They're just realizing that it's starting to happen, and so there's unfortunately not a huge amount of research done on why this happens to some people and why not to others. Right now, I believe that it's a conglomerate of different things, a multifaceted, different approach that can cause the body to go into an imbalanced state. Things like diet can lead to inflammation in the gut, which can lead to immune system dysfunction and imbalance. Chronic conditions that are made worse through both of these things or just by life in general can sort of cause the body to become overwhelmed. Same with chronic stress, overburdened detox pathways, whether that be the foods you're eating, the things you're being exposed to, the products you're using, the air you're breathing. Changes in environment, again, this can be caused by chronic detox pathway issues, stress, exacerbations of issues, and then genetics too play a big part in how your body is functioning and existing in our world. And unfortunately, this is one that we can't get away from, but it is one that we can understand more and work with. So if time is the ultimate healer and there's nothing we can do to get through TSW, what's the point? What can I actually do? I'll say this again, your body is healing, you are in control of your health, and you can reset your skin from the inside out. So here are the tips and the things that I do with my patients going through TSW. There's so much we can do, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to really take control of our health and connect with our bodies so we can live our lives moving forward and grow from this process. Again, surprise, tuning into your body, connecting with yourself and how you're showing up, how your mind is interacting without any judgments, how you're noticing yourself show up and feel and experience this process without any judgments. Notice the topicals you use, the supplements you take. Eventually you'll start to be able to figure out how these things, along with the foods you're eating, will make you feel. Again, right off the bat, in the beginning of the stage, it's going to be more about tuning in and nourishing and being calm. And then as you work with your coach and your guide and become more aligned with your health, you'll be able to start noticing how you can sort of guide these nuances into a healing and foundational place. Connecting with a guide, again, is a huge tip that I always recommend with anyone going through TSW, whether that be a local doctor, or someone that you trust in the community that you work with, or a eczema or topical steroid withdrawal coach like myself, someone who knows what they're doing, to essentially be able to look at your story, your individual picture, and pick out some of the things that you might not be able to objectively and guide you in a direction. Pick out some of those nuances. Maybe your gut health's a little bit out of whack. Maybe your immune system's super imbalanced. Maybe you have too much histamine exposure. Someone to be able to picture these things and help you understand what you can do to take an empowered approach for your individual process. The third thing I always think that we can do is learning what's happening to our body. Education is a huge way that we take back our power and our medical sovereignty. Again, with TSW and eczema, there's just very little known, especially in the medical community. So unfortunately, it's going to be up to us right now to educate people and educate our medical practitioners that this is a real thing and this is what it looks like and this is how you can treat it and this is what makes me feel better. So I really have focused my intentions on being able to provide this education to you, what I learned, what I do, and what I see that can help people. So you can pass it on to other medical professionals and other TSW warriors so they don't have to have the same tough experience that we are going through. Focusing on the foundations and having a clear picture of health. So while you're doing all of these things, like working with a guide, connecting with your community and yourself, learning what's going on, things that you can actionably do to move forward are focusing on the foundational pieces behind the scenes that really make up our health overall. So these are things like nourishing our nervous system, healing our gut, supporting our detox pathways, and rebalancing our immune systems. These are all things that can sort of become foundationally out of balance with eczema and topical steroid withdrawals. So getting the information and working with someone who knows how to do these things intentionally and targetedly can really help you basically get all your ducks in a row. And so when your body is ready to be healed and move through TSW, you can help effectively guide through that efficiently and actionably. How do you actually do that? That is my job. I want to help you integrate your physiology with your intuition so you can clear your skin from the inside out. I don't want to give you suppressive drugs like more steroids, oral steroids, cyclosporin, methotrexate. I really want to help you learn how to focus on these things. So in this program, the Reset Your Skin System, some of the things we'll go through here are how to actually heal your gut, how to support your detox pathways, how to connect with your body and to learn your individual triggers, connect with your nervous system, your own triggers, your own foundations, your own stress levels, your own nervous system, and how to actually rebalance your nervous system or your immune system, and figure out how to get it, how to know when it's feeling a little bit overwhelmed and manage it so you don't develop any full-blown flares moving forward. In this program, the Reset Your Skin System, we have coaching and direction. So you have your coaching call with myself. This is where we'll go through all of the things we just talked about, and I'll gather your story, help you navigate the process and how to go through all the material in the 4-pillar online program, which is the education and empowerment piece. So all of those goals here that we have targeted, all of the information that you need to effectively and actionably move through this are in this program. So coaching, I will go through how you can move through the program and how you can most efficiently target your areas of imbalance. And then you'll be able to access all of the information to move through it at your pace. If you've tried everything and you feel like there's no hope, I'll say it again. You have the power to take control of this situation and rebalance the behind the scenes work. So when your body is ready to recalibrate and help, you can step into the process and help guide it to a state of vibrancy and resilience. So this is my skin. I want to help you through this process, and I want you to remember that everything you are going through right now is your highest and greatest good. Topical steroid withdrawal is a spiritual and a soul journey as well as a physical one. It will definitely challenge your boundaries, but you will come out stronger in the end of it, and you will handle it. Like I said, you are not alone through this process, and you've got this. If you have any questions or you need any support, please reach out to me at Kayla at drkaylaclark.com, and I hope to see you in this container soon.